Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at, well, a pretty dramatic legal and political situation that just played out in D.C. You have the Justice Department doing a really quick turnaround in court, agreeing to pull back an emergency police chief they just appointed and rewrite a major directive. It's this classic clash almost between federal power and local D.C. autonomy.
Exactly. And that's what we want to unpack here. We're going to look at the layers, how this federal power was invoked, what happened in the courtroom, the arguments, the interpretations, the ideas to give you the essential context, really paint a clear picture of what went down and maybe more importantly, why it matters.
Okay, so let's get into it. This whole thing revolves around D.C.'s, well, its unique legal status. The Home Rule Act of 1973 is key here. That act gives D.C. self-governance, more or less elected mayor, council, that sort of thing. But then there's a specific part, Section 740, which President Trump used. What exactly does that let a president do? How powerful is that?
Oh, it's significant. Section 740, it allows the president to basically tell the D.C. mayor, I need police services, and the mayor has to provide them. Specifically, it says, such services of the Metropolitan Police Force as the president may deem necessary and appropriate, and it's for up to 30 days. In this case, the stated reason was cracking down on crime. So President Trump invoked it, putting the MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department, under temporary federal control.
Right, placed MPD under federal control. So that was the first step, but things really escalated from there, didn't they? It was last Thursday, I think. Attorney General Pam Bondi, her department, was overseeing this 30-day federalization period. She made some moves that really set things off.
Yeah, Thursday night. And it was the scope and the speed of it that was striking. First, she names Terry Cole, he's the head of the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, as an emergency police chief for D.C. That alone was a major point of friction. But then she issued these directives, essentially targeting D.C.'s sanctuary policies on immigration. It was a direct order to force more cooperation between MPD and federal immigration agents.
Wow, okay, so appointing an emergency chief in the DEA and then going after sanctuary policies, that's a lot. Can you break down what those directives actually meant in practice? How would they change things on the ground for MPD?
Sure. They were pretty sweeping. Bondi ordered the MPD to temporarily cooperate fully with ICE and other federal immigration authorities. This specifically rolled back guidance from D.C.'s actual police chief, Pamela Smith guidance she had issued just that week. Chief Smith's guidance had allowed some limited interaction, like transport or sharing info during traffic stops, but still barred most local involvement in federal immigration enforcement. Bondi's order basically scrapped that.
Scrapped it entirely.
Pretty much. And went further. It removed the rule preventing D.C. police from searching databases just to check someone's immigration status if there wasn't a criminal warrant. And critically, it suspended the D.C. rules that stopped local police from arresting people based only on administrative immigration warrants. Those are warrants signed by ICE, not by judges. It also stopped the rule preventing MPD from helping federal agents during those kinds of arrests.
So D.C. policy required a criminal reason, not just an immigration warrant, for an arrest by MPD.
Exactly. The previous policy needed a criminal connection, a criminal nexus, before an officer could arrest someone, and it explicitly forbade arrests based solely on suspected civil immigration violations. Bondi's directive just wiped that away, temporarily at least.
Okay, so a fundamental shift in how D.C. police would interact with immigration enforcement. Understandably, D.C. didn't just accept this. What was their immediate reaction?
No, they reacted very quickly. The District of Columbia sued the Trump administration and AG Bondi literally the next day, on Friday. They argued her moves, especially trying to tear down these sanctuary rules, were illegal. D.C.'s Attorney General Brian Schwab put it pretty snarkily. He warned about immediate, devastating, and irreparable harms if these federal orders stood. That lawsuit set up the courtroom showdown.
And that brings us to Friday's hearing. U.S. District Judge Reyes was presiding. It's probably worth noting she's had some critical things to say about the administration in past cases, right?
That's true, yeah. And the whole case really boiled down to interpreting Section 740 of that Home Rule Act. Like, what does provide such services actually mean? How far does that federal power go?
What was the Justice Department's argument? How did they justify Bondi's actions?
Well, the DOJ lawyer, Yakov Roth, he's a principal deputy AG, argued the language in the Home Rule Act is really broad. His position was that it allows the White House to basically take over the MPD for this period, and that courts shouldn't even be reviewing it. Kind of an absolute authority argument.
But Judge Reyes pushed back on that interpretation. It sounds like she drew some finer lines.
She really did. She
Hmm.
made some crucial distinctions. She said, yes, the Home Rule Act does mean the mayor has to comply with White House directives for services, but she said that doesn't mean the administration gets total control over every single thing the MPD does. She had this quote, something like, the statute would have no meaning at all if the president could just say, we're taking over your police department. And the president can't say, Mayor, I'm asking for the services of your entire police department. I need them to be at my beck and call.
Okay, so she's saying it's about requesting specific services,
Mhm.
not a complete operational takeover or dictating internal policy wholesale.
That seems to be the core distinction she was making. She clarified it further, saying the administration can ask MPD to do something specific, like helping ICE, for example. She actually gave that example. If the president today called the mayor and said, I need the services of the MPD to help ICE, I don't think she could say no, because, she pointed out, the law says the mayor shall provide services, not can. So requests for positive action seem allowed. But she implied they can't necessarily tell the MPD not to do something, like enforcing its own policies.
So they can ask for help, but maybe not forbid D.C. from following its own rules.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. And she was also pretty openly skeptical about appointing Terry Cole, the DEA administrator, as the emergency chief. That didn't seem to sit right with her interpretation of requesting services.
And D.C.'s lawyers must have been emphasizing the potential chaos here. Schwalb's warning about operational havoc sounds serious.
Extremely serious. He warned that messing with the MPD command structure like that, imposing these new rules so suddenly, could endanger both the public and police officers. The stakes felt very high in that courtroom.
So, given all that, what was the outcome of the hearing on Friday? Did anything get resolved immediately?
Yes, actually, there were some pretty significant agreements reached right there. It felt like a definite win for D.C., at least initially. The Justice Department agreed to remove Terry Cole as the emergency chief. That was a big one. So D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith remains in charge of the department.
That avoids the immediate command structure problem D.C. was worried about.
Right. Cole isn't out completely, though. He'll now act as sort of an intermediary, a liaison between the White House and MPD during this 30-day period.
Oh,
But he's not running the department.
okay. That's a major concession. What about the immigration directives? The ones targeting the sanctuary policies?
That was the other key agreement. The Justice Department agreed to rewrite that Bondi directive. They didn't scrap it entirely on the spot, but they committed to changing it. Both sides agreed they'll continue the arguments over the immigration policy stuff next week after the DOJ comes back with the newly written policies.
Interesting. So the fight over the substance of the immigration rules isn't over, but the immediate sweeping order from Bondi is being withdrawn and reworked.
Exactly. It buys time and forces the DOJ to reconsider its approach, likely trying to align it more with Judge Reyes' interpretation of Section 740, focusing on specific service requests rather than broad policy overrides.
And D.C.'s mayor, Muriel Bowser, must have been pleased with that outcome.
She was. She put out a statement saying she was glad Chief Smith remains in charge, and she really emphasized the need for D.C. to defend our autonomy and protect the district's access to democracy, which is always a central theme in these D.C. home rule fights.
So looking ahead, this federal takeover is set for 30 days. Is there talk of it going longer?
Well, President Trump had apparently mentioned possibly extending it beyond 30 days without needing Congress. But interestingly, the DOJ lawyer, Roth, told the judge his reading of the law was that the federalization would end after 30 days unless Congress intervened. So there seems to be an agreement, at least legally within the courtroom context, that it's time limited for now. Both the lawyers and Judge Reyes seem to express hope that, the whole situation could be handled successfully and stay within constitutional bounds.
Right. It really throws D.C.'s unique and sometimes difficult political position into sharp relief, doesn't it? A clear win for D.C.'s home rule for now, stopping the immediate emergency chief appointment and forcing a rewrite of that directive. But like you said, negotiations are still ongoing.
Absolutely. This whole episode really highlights that constant tension. And it leaves us with something to think about, maybe for you, the listener. How do these constant legal and political fights over D.C.'s home rule, over federal oversight, how does that affect the day-to-day reality for people living in the Capitol? And what does this specific instance tell us about the bigger picture of checks and balances and the balance of power between federal authority and local governance in the U.S. system? It's a fascinating dynamic.